The alien woman ordered her human guard to kneel. His answer emptied the whole court. What could a human guard possibly say after being ordered to kneel? And why would his answer cause an entire court to empty? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We are glad to have you here for another journey beyond the stars. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Thank you for spending your time with us and for continuing to support the channel. Your support truly means a lot. Before we enter the story, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it there right now? Now, let us begin the story. Nathan Hayes. Kneel. The words crossed the golden court without needing to be loud. Nathan stood 30 feet below the obsidian throne, surrounded by hundreds of Asturian nobles whose emerald, sapphire, and silver faces had turned toward the only human in the chamber. Warm ceremonial light poured through the crystalline ceiling, painting long golden reflections across the black floor beneath his polished shoes. Somewhere above, a bell gave one fading note. Then silence swallowed everything. Nathan could hear the ventilation whisper through carved pillars. He could hear fabric settling as nobles stopped moving. He could even hear his own heartbeat, slow and inconveniently calm. Regent Valyra Thane watched him from the throne. At 6 feet 7 inches, she had never needed elevation to appear imposing, yet the 7 black steps beneath her made the distance feel deliberate. Her emerald green skin carried faint iridescent gold patterns along her temples, and her silver-white hair fell neatly over the dark ceremonial mantle marking her as Regent of Asteria. Her golden eyes revealed almost nothing. Almost. Nathan had spent enough time protecting people to recognize tension hidden beneath stillness. She did not want to give this order. That interested him far more than the order itself. To Valyra's right stood the High Council, 12 figures arranged beneath ancient banners. They were watching her, not him. Nathan understood immediately. This was not about whether a human would kneel. It was about whether she could make one kneel. Human, one counselor said, his voice sharp against the quiet. You stand before the regent. Nathan kept his hands relaxed at his sides. His charcoal diplomatic uniform carried no medals, no ceremonial gold, only a small Terran insignia at the collar. He had been hired to guard a ruler, not decorate her court. I am aware, he said. A ripple moved through the nobles. Valyra's gaze remained fixed on him. Nathan, hearing his first name, changed the temperature of the moment. 12 hours earlier, she had called him Mr. Hayes with the careful distance of someone accepting an inconvenient foreign security arrangement. Now there was something else beneath her voice. Warning, perhaps, or apology. The renewal requires every sworn member of this court to acknowledge the authority of the throne. Nathan looked at the nobles surrounding him. Every one of them had already performed the ritual. Kneel. Lower the head. Wait for permission to rise. Simple. 3 seconds, perhaps 4. Yet Earth's diplomatic agreement with Asteria had been equally simple. Terran personnel could offer formal bows, honors, and ceremonial respect, but no human representative could perform an oath of personal submission to a foreign sovereign. The distinction had seemed almost academic when Nathan read it. It did not feel academic now. I understand the requirement, Your Grace. The oldest counselor leaned forward. Then obey it. Nathan noticed Valyra's fingers tighten slightly against the arm of the throne. There. Confirmation. Someone wanted this confrontation. More importantly, someone wanted her trapped inside it. If she excused him, the council could call her weak. If she forced him down, Earth could call it a treaty violation. Nathan suddenly wondered how long they had been preparing this moment. He looked back at Valyra. She was surrounded by banners, titles, guards, and enough ceremonial gold to purchase a small city on Earth. Yet Nathan had never seen anyone look more alone. Kneel, she repeated. Nathan inhaled slowly. The air tasted faintly metallic, scented with the sweet Asturian incense burning beside the throne. Hundreds waited. The council waited. Valyra waited. Nathan lowered his eyes for one respectful second, then raised them again. He did not bend his knees. Your Grace, he said quietly. If I kneel now. 12 hours earlier, Nathan Hayes had entered the same court believing his assignment was to protect Valyra's life. He had not yet understood that before the day ended, he might have to protect something she had never realized was in danger, her dignity. 12 hours earlier, Nathan Hayes had learned that the Golden Court possessed 317 doors, and apparently no shortage of people willing to tell him which ones he was not important enough to use. He entered through the Eastern Diplomatic Arch just after sunrise, carrying one compact travel case and wearing the charcoal uniform of Terran Protective Service. Morning light filtered through a ceiling nearly 80 feet above him, breaking into amber ribbons across the polished obsidian floor. The chamber smelled of mineral incense, warm stone, and something floral Nathan could not identify. Asturian nobles moved beneath suspended banners in robes of silver and gold, their voices low, their steps measured. Almost everyone bowed when Regent Vaelira Thane crossed the upper gallery. Nathan noticed something stranger. Nobody looked at her while doing it. Heads lowered before she reached them. Eyes dropped toward the floor. The gesture was flawless, automatic, empty. Human personnel normally wait in the service vestibule, an Asturian official informed him. Nathan looked at the official, then at the identification marker beside the doorway. Diplomatic security enters here. You are personal staff. I am diplomatic security. The official's expression suggested Earth had committed a grammatical offense. Those distinctions may matter on your world. They matter in the treaty your government signed. Nathan offered his credentials. The official accepted them reluctantly. Nathan Hayes, Terran citizen, 36 years old, protective specialist. His golden eyes moved down the record. No noble designation. My mother would be disappointed to hear that. The official did not react. Nathan had expected as much. Humor traveled poorly when the listener considered you furniture. A soft ceremonial chime sounded from the gallery. Conversation throughout the chamber faded. Vaelira descended the broad black staircase with two advisors behind her. She was taller than Nathan by several inches, emerald skin carrying subtle golden patterns that brightened beneath the morning light. Her silver-white hair was gathered behind her shoulders, and the dark mantle she wore seemed designed to make everyone else in the room appear unnecessarily colorful. She stopped before Nathan. Mr. Hayes, Your Grace. He gave the formal Terran bow they had agreed upon during briefing. Not deep. Respectful, Vaelira noticed. So did everyone else. You do not kneel, she said. Not usually before lunch. One advisor inhaled sharply. Vaelira's expression remained composed, but something almost amused moved through her golden eyes. I was told humans use humor when uncomfortable. We also use it when comfortable. Makes diagnosis difficult. She began walking. Nathan fell into position behind her. As they crossed the court, nobles bowed in perfect sequence. Nathan watched their hands instead of their faces. One counselor stopped speaking when Vaelira approached, then resumed the instant she passed. Another bowed deeply but exchanged a glance with the man beside him before straightening. A third handed Vaelira a document already bearing 11 council seals, leaving only the regent's signature blank. Nathan filed that away. You are staring at my counselors, Vaelira said without turning. I stare professionally. And what has your profession discovered? They are very respectful. You sound unconvinced. Nathan waited until they entered a quieter corridor lined with translucent gold panels. Respect usually involves looking at the person you respect. Vaelira stopped. For the first time, she turned fully toward him. You have been inside my court for 7 minutes. 8. And you believe you understand it? No, Nathan glanced back through the open archway. Beyond it, another noble bowed toward Vaelira's empty path even though she was no longer there. I think I understand enough to keep watching. Her golden markings brightened faintly. Curiosity, Nathan guessed. Earth sent me an unusual guard. Earth had several normal ones available. Apparently you got unlucky. Vaelira resumed walking. Nathan followed, but something about the court stayed with him. Hundreds of people bowed to her. Hundreds obeyed the rituals surrounding her office. Yet when she left the room seemed relieved. Nathan had protected senators, negotiators, engineers, and witnesses. He knew the difference between authority and obedience. One inspired people to remain when leaving became easier. The other lasted only while someone was watching. As the great doors closed behind them, Nathan wondered which one Vaelira actually possessed. There is one rule you should understand before tonight, Vaelira said. Nathan followed her into a ceremonial preparation chamber overlooking the eastern gardens, where sunlight passed through amber glass and painted the floor in warm geometric patterns. 3 Asturian officials waited beside a long table covered with silver tablets, ceremonial seals, and folded strips of white fabric. Nathan noticed that one strip had been placed separately from the others. Only one, he asked. I was beginning to think this palace had several thousand. Veilira gave him the brief look she reserved for human humor she had not decided whether to tolerate. The oldest official stepped forward. His robes carried the black and gold markings of the Office of Court Protocol. The renewal ceremony recognizes the sovereign authority of the regent. Every sworn member of the court approaches the throne, kneels, lowers the head, and waits to be acknowledged. Nathan looked at the isolated white strip. And that one is mine. Correct. I am not a sworn member of this court. The official's expression remained perfectly polite. You are the regent's personal guard, assigned under the Terran-Asterian Diplomatic Treaty. A technical distinction. Nathan turned his gray-blue eyes toward him. Treaties are collections of technical distinctions. The room became noticeably quieter. Veilira moved to the window, hands folded behind her back. Explain the Terran position. Nathan appreciated the wording. She had not ordered him to comply. Not yet. Terran personnel can bow to foreign leaders. We can observe local ceremonies, titles, and honors. We cannot perform an oath or gesture legally defined as surrendering personal sovereignty. The protocol official blinked slowly. Kneeling is respect. Then I can respect you standing. That is not our custom. I can bow. You will kneel. Nathan checked the wall clock. Then we have a scheduling conflict. One younger official looked down quickly, concealing what might have been amusement. Veilira turned from the window. Mr. Hayes, Your Grace, you appear remarkably relaxed about creating an interstellar protocol dispute before breakfast. I had breakfast. That explains everything. This time the faint amusement in her golden eyes lasted long enough to be unmistakable. The protocol master did not share it. He touched the silver tablet and brought up the ceremony roster. Nathan leaned closer. His name appeared beneath Veilira's household officers, marked with the Asterian symbol for sworn service. Wrong category. Very wrong category. Who entered me there? Nathan asked. The High Council approved the ceremony roster. When? 9 days ago. Nathan looked at Veilira. My assignment was confirmed 4 days ago. The gold patterns along her temples became still. Yes. So they created a ceremonial requirement for your human guard 5 days before anyone knew which human would arrive. Silence settled across the room. The protocol master's expression tightened. The council anticipated Terran participation, apparently with impressive enthusiasm. Nathan studied the roster again. This was not a misunderstanding between cultures. Someone had researched the treaty, found the one ritual Earth personnel could not perform, and placed it directly in the path of whoever became Veilira's guard. The individual human did not matter. The refusal did. Remove his name, Veilira said. The protocol master hesitated. Your Grace, the renewal order has already been sealed by the High Council. I am the regent, which is precisely why altering a sealed renewal order requires council approval. Nathan watched Veilira's face. There it was again. She occupied the highest seat in the palace. Yet someone else had built walls around every decision she made. Convenient, Nathan murmured. Veilira heard him. What is? They wrote the rule, placed me under it, and made sure you cannot remove it alone. The protocol master stiffened. Human, you presume too much. Nathan met his gaze. That is possible. He tapped his name on the roster. But somebody presumed I would kneel. Veilira approached the table and studied the document herself. For several seconds, only the soft fountain outside disturbed the silence. If you refuse publicly, she said, the council can claim you reject the authority of this court. Yes. If I excuse you, they can claim I cannot command my own household. Yes. Her eyes lifted to his. And if you kneel? Nathan looked at the white ceremonial strip waiting for him. Then Earth watches one of its representatives publicly surrender a right our treaty specifically protects. Veilira finally understood the shape of the trap. Nathan could see it in the stillness of her face. Tonight, hundreds of nobles would think they were watching a human being tested. Nathan was beginning to suspect the human had never been the test at all. Tell me something, Nathan, Veilira said as the preparation chamber emptied around them. When humans disagree with someone powerful, do you always make jokes? Nathan watched the last protocol official disappear through the amber doors before answering. Only when the alternative is saying exactly what I am thinking. And what are you thinking now? That your council plans ahead. Veilira turned toward the window. Beyond the amber glass, the capital spread across green terraces beneath a pale morning sky. Slender towers rose between gardens and reflecting pools, beautiful enough to make the politics inside the palace feel almost impossible. Nathan had learned not to trust beautiful buildings. People still brought their problems inside them. Veilira touched a silver tablet resting on the table. 12 decrees appeared. 11 already carried council approval. Each waited for one final mark. Hers. You were watching these earlier, she said. Yes. Why? Nathan stepped closer without crossing the respectful distance between them. Because 11 people decided what those documents should say before they reached the person supposedly making the decision. Her golden eyes lifted. The council advises the regent. Advisors usually leave room for advice. Veilira's expression cooled. You have known me less than an hour. I am not judging you. It sounds remarkably similar. Nathan considered that. Fair. The answer seemed to surprise her. He nodded toward the tablet. I am judging the system around you. Different thing. Veilira selected the first decree. Trade allocation. Already approved. The second concerned orbital construction. Already approved. The third appointed 3 regional administrators. 11 seals waited beneath it. These matters require stability, she said. Asteria has spent generations building institutions that prevent one ruler from acting alone. That sounds sensible. You expected me to disagree? I expected you to tell me why 11 advisors deciding everything before you arrive is called preventing one ruler from acting alone. Veilira stared at him. Nathan could almost hear the sentence settling somewhere uncomfortable. Outside, water moved through the garden fountains with a soft rhythmic hiss. You are very direct for a guard, she said. Earth tried indirect guards. They kept getting lost. A tiny smile threatened at the corner of her mouth, then disappeared. My people value order. So do mine. Your species does not appear orderly. We value it. Achieving it is another issue. She turned back to the decrees. Nathan let the silence work. His job had trained him to notice rooms before people noticed him. In Veilira's chambers, he noticed something else. No personal photographs. No handwritten notes. No objects that seemed chosen rather than assigned. Everything carried the regent's crest. Nothing carried Veilira. Why did you accept a human guard, he asked. The Terran Alliance requested representation within my protective detail. That is the official answer. She glanced at him. You dislike official answers? They are usually designed by committees. Another pause. Because I wanted someone outside this court, she finally said. Nathan's attention sharpened. Why? Someone who had not spent a lifetime learning when to lower his eyes. That was the first completely honest thing she had told him. Nathan looked through the open doorway toward the golden court beyond. Servants crossed the distant floor. Council aides carried sealed documents between chambers. Every movement followed a pattern older than anyone performing it. Then you chose the right planet, he said. Veilira gave a quiet breath of amusement. So, I am discovering. A ceremonial coordinator entered and announced that the renewal rehearsal would begin in 2 hours. He placed another document on the table, bowed deeply, and left. Veilira opened it. Nathan watched her expression change. What? She turned the tablet toward him. The High Council had issued a clarification concerning foreign household personnel. The language was polished, formal, and unmistakable. Nathan's participation in the kneeling ritual was now explicitly required. They moved quickly, he said. They anticipated my attempt to excuse you. Which means this is not about tradition. Veilira looked toward the throne room. No, Nathan studied the 11 seals beneath the order. They want you to choose publicly. Between Asteria and Earth. Not exactly. She faced him. Nathan kept his voice quiet. Between their definition of your authority and your own. The golden patterns at her temples dimmed. For the first time that morning, Veilira did not look like the most powerful woman in Asteria. She looked like someone finally seeing the walls around her throne. Nathan understood then why Earth had sent him here. Protecting her body might prove simple. The harder assignment would be standing beside her when the people who bowed deepest demanded that she become smaller. 2 hours before the renewal rehearsal, Nathan found the trap hiding in plain sight. It was not concealed in a secret message or buried beneath complicated legal language. It sat on a ceremonial table in the golden court beneath 12 silver seals, presented as tradition. Nathan stood beside the table while morning light moved slowly across the obsidian floor. The chamber was mostly empty now, giving him room to hear the soft hum of climate controls and the distant echo of servants preparing the galleries. Veilira approached from the throne steps. You have been reading that document for 10 minutes. 9. You enjoy correcting me. Only when accuracy improves morale. She stopped beside him. Nathan rotated the tablet toward her. The council changed more than my participation requirement. Veilira read silently. The gold markings along her temples tightened almost imperceptibly. They classified you as sworn household personnel, which I am not. No, and if I accept the classification by completing the ritual, what happens? Veilira looked at him. Under Asterian law, sworn household personnel recognize the regent as their highest sovereign authority while serving within the court. Higher than Terran law. For the duration of service, yes. Nathan nodded slowly. There it was. The kneeling itself was theater. The legal meaning behind it was the blade hidden inside the velvet. So if I kneel, Earth can argue that Asteria violated our treaty. If I refuse, your council can argue that you cannot command your own guard. Correct. And if you excuse me, they accuse you of placing foreign interests above Asterian tradition. Veilira's voice lowered. Correct. Nathan looked toward the empty galleries where hundreds of nobles would gather that evening. That is efficient. You sound impressed. I appreciate good planning even when I dislike the plan. Veilira walked toward the first throne step, then stopped. There is another possibility. Nathan already knew what she meant. I kneel anyway. She turned. 3 seconds. Her voice was quieter now, stripped of ceremony. Perhaps 4. No oath spoken aloud. No document signed by your hand. I could challenge the classification afterward. Nathan studied her face. She was not commanding him. That made the request harder. And what does the court see? A ritual completed. What does Earth see? A diplomatic compromise. What do you see? Veilira hesitated. A problem survived. Nathan looked down at the black floor. It reflected both of them, her emerald figure wrapped in royal darkness, his smaller human silhouette standing several feet away. 3 seconds can tell people what you believe. Sometimes 3 seconds prevent years of conflict. Sometimes. Her golden eyes hardened. You would risk an alliance over your knees? Nathan almost smiled, but there was nothing funny in the question. No, I would risk an uncomfortable evening over the idea that respect has to be voluntary. Veilira stepped closer. You serve me. I protect you. Is there a difference? A large one. The silence between them became heavy. Nathan kept his voice calm. If I see danger, I will step between you and it. If you need help, I will stay when leaving would be easier. If everyone in this palace turns against you, my contract still tells me where to stand. He touched the Terran insignia at his collar. But none of that means I belong to you. Veilira looked at him for a long moment. And what do you believe respect is? Something worth more when the other person can refuse to give it. She turned toward the throne. 7 obsidian steps lifted it above the floor. Nathan followed her gaze. Your council does not care whether I respect you, he said. They care whether they can make me submit. Veilira's shoulders became still. Nathan pointed toward the ceremonial roster. They knew Earth would object. They knew you would be trapped. They planned this before I arrived. Why? Because tonight they are not testing the human. He looked directly at her. They are testing how much of yourself you will trade to keep that throne looking powerful. The words lingered beneath the enormous ceiling. Veilira said nothing. Then footsteps sounded from the western arch. The 12 members of the High Council entered together, far earlier than scheduled. At their center walked the oldest counselor, carrying a newly sealed decree. Nathan watched Veilira straighten. The regent returned to her face like a mask settling into place. The counselor bowed. Your Grace, we require your decision regarding the human before rehearsal begins. Veilira glanced once at Nathan. The question in her eyes had changed. She was no longer wondering whether he would kneel. She was wondering what would happen to her if he did. My decision, Veilira said, will be given at the renewal. The oldest counselor, Lord Kaler Vin, stood beneath the amber light with both hands resting over the newly sealed decree. Nathan watched the other 11 counselors spread across the obsidian floor behind him. Perfect spacing, perfect robes, perfect expressions. A wall made from etiquette instead of stone. Your Grace, Kaler said, Uncertainty before the ceremony may be interpreted as weakness. Veilira descended one throne step. Then perhaps the court should practice surviving uncertainty. Nathan kept his face neutral, though he suspected that sentence had cost her something. Kaler's golden eyes shifted toward him. The human has complicated a simple custom. The human read the treaty, Nathan said. A dangerous habit, apparently. Several counselors looked displeased. One looked almost amused. Kaler ignored him. Asterian tradition cannot be rewritten for every foreign visitor. Agreed, Nathan said. Fortunately, nobody asked you to rewrite it. I asked you not to rewrite me. The chamber became quiet enough for Nathan to hear the faint hiss of incense burning beside the throne. Veilira glanced at him. Not approval, not disapproval. Curiosity sharpened by pressure. Kaler turned back to her. The council requires certainty. You have it, Veilira replied. The ceremony proceeds tonight. And your guard. A pause. He will attend. Kaler bowed, but Nathan noticed how shallow it was. Then we trust he understands what will be expected. The council withdrew through the western arch, their footsteps fading across the stone. Veilira waited until the doors closed. You enjoy making powerful people uncomfortable. Not specifically. Nathan looked toward the doorway. It just keeps happening. Tonight it may happen in front of 800 witnesses. That seems efficient. She gave him a tired look. The regent was disappearing again, leaving only Veilira beneath the ceremonial mantle. Walk with me. They crossed into a narrow gallery overlooking the capital. Afternoon sunlight had replaced the softer morning gold. Far below, air traffic moved between silver towers while gardens climbed the palace terraces in green layers. No advisors followed them. No servants waited nearby. For the first time all day, Nathan heard no ceremonial bells. 3 seconds, Veilira said. He knew immediately what she meant. We already discussed this. Then discuss it again. Nathan stopped beside the glass. Veilira faced him. Kneel for 3 seconds. I will personally state afterward that it carried no legal surrender. Earth retains its treaty protections. The council loses its excuse to challenge me. The alliance survives the evening. And tomorrow? Tomorrow we change the law. Can you? The question landed harder than Nathan intended. Veilira looked away. Eventually. That is not the same answer. You think I do not understand my own position? I think you understand it better than anyone. That is why you are asking me privately instead of ordering me publicly. Her golden eyes returned to him. You are my guard. Yes. Then help me. Nathan felt the weight beneath those 3 words. He could have refused quickly. Instead, he considered what she was actually asking. Not submission. Relief. One small compromise that might let her survive another day inside a system built to make every compromise permanent. If I kneel tonight, he said quietly, they will call you powerful. Veilira waited. And tomorrow they will find someone else you have to make smaller to prove it again. The gold patterns at her temples dimmed. Nathan continued, gentler now. You asked what I believe. I believe respect volunteered means more than obedience demanded. I believe a leader should not need people beneath her to know she can stand. Veilira looked through the glass toward the city she governed. That is easy to say when you do not sit on the throne. Probably. Nathan joined her at the window. But from where I stand, the throne does not look comfortable. A quiet sound escaped her, almost a laugh. Humans are impossible. We prefer difficult. The palace bells began announcing the final hours before renewal. Veilira straightened, but she did not immediately put the regent back on like armor. When I give the order tonight, she said, what will you do? Nathan looked at her. I will tell you the truth. Even if the court turns against me, especially then. She studied him for several seconds. And if I turn against you? Nathan's answer came without hesitation. I will still get you home safely. That silenced her. Not because it was defiant, but because it was not. Nathan was offering loyalty without surrender, service without ownership, protection without demanding agreement. Veilira finally nodded. Then stand beside me tonight. Nathan glanced toward the throne room doors. I thought guards stood behind. So did I. She walked away before he could answer. Nathan followed, 3 paces behind out of habit, but the distance suddenly felt temporary. By sunset, the Golden Court had become a machine built from ritual. 800 witnesses filled the galleries beneath the crystalline ceiling, their formal robes turning the chamber into bands of emerald, silver, violet, and gold. Mineral incense warmed the air. Ceremonial bells echoed from pillars nearly 80 feet high. Nathan stood on the obsidian floor beside the lowest throne step, exactly where Veilira had told him to stand. Not behind her, beside her. The difference was less than 6 feet and politically enormous. Lord Kaler noticed immediately. So did the rest of the High Council. Nathan pretended not to notice them noticing. "The renewal begins," announced the Master of Protocol. Veilira sat above the court beneath the black and gold banners of Asteria. From a distance, she looked untouchable. Nathan knew better now. One by one, officials approached. Each stopped before the throne. Each lowered to one knee. Each waited for Veilira to acknowledge them before rising. Nathan watched the pattern repeat until the ritual stopped looking like respect and started looking like machinery. Step. Kneel. Silence. Permission. Rise. Every motion had been perfected over generations. Nobody questioned it because nobody remembered being allowed to. Then Nathan's name sounded through the chamber. Nathan Hayes, Terran Protective Service, sworn guardian to the Regent. There it was again. Sworn guardian. The classification Earth had never accepted. Nathan stepped forward. His shoes made 2 quiet sounds against the polished floor. He stopped 30 feet from the throne. Hundreds of eyes followed him. Veilira looked down at him. For a moment, neither moved. The Master of Protocol cleared his throat. Guardian, acknowledged the sovereign authority of the Regent. Nathan gave Veilira a formal Terran bow. Respectful. Precise. He straightened. Silence followed. Kaler rose from his council seat. The ritual requires the knee. Nathan turned his head slightly. The Terran treaty permits the bow. You stand in Asteria? Under an Astrian treaty. A murmur passed through the galleries. Veilira raised one hand, and the sound faded. Nathan looked at her again. He could see the calculation behind her golden eyes. If she accepted his bow, the council would challenge her authority before 800 witnesses. If she demanded more, Earth would see its representative publicly classified as a subordinate sovereign subject. The trap had reached the moment it was designed for. "Mr. Hayes," Veilira said carefully, "complete the renewal acknowledgement." Nathan did not move. Kaler stepped forward. "Your Grace." Ambiguity now would diminish the throne. There. Nathan heard it clearly. Not disrespect the tradition. Not threaten the alliance. Diminish the throne. This had always been about making Veilira prove that her authority depended on obedience. The Regent's fingers rested against the black arm of her throne. Nathan remembered their conversation beside the window. 3 seconds. A problem survived. Tomorrow they would change the law. He also remembered what he had told her. Tomorrow they would simply find someone else. "Human," Kaler said. "Kneel." Nathan ignored him. His attention remained on Veilira. She understood why. The council could demand anything. Only her choice mattered. "Nathan," she said. The use of his first name softened nothing. If anything, it made the moment heavier. "Kneel." The court became completely still. Nathan heard incense crackle in a nearby burner. He heard fabric shift somewhere in the upper gallery. He heard his own breath leave slowly. Veilira's face remained composed, but he recognized the apology hidden behind her eyes. She had made the choice the throne demanded. Now he had to make his. Nathan lowered his head for 1 second, offering her the respect he had always been willing to give. Then he looked up. His knees remained straight. Kaler's expression hardened. "You defy the Regent before her entire court." "No," Nathan said. "I am answering her." Veilira leaned forward slightly. Nathan saw fear now, not fear of him, but fear of what his answer might cost them both. He spoke quietly enough that the silence carried every word. "Your Grace, if I kneel now, they will call you powerful." Several counselors exchanged satisfied glances, believing they knew where the sentence was going. Nathan looked at them, then back at Veilira. "But tomorrow, they will ask you to make someone else kneel." No one moved. And the day after that, someone else. The satisfaction disappeared from Kaler's face. Nathan's voice remained calm. "If your authority needs me smaller before they can believe you are strong, then they never believed in your authority at all." Somewhere in the gallery, someone slowly stood from a ceremonial kneel that had already lasted too long. The person rising in the upper gallery was an elderly Astrian woman wearing the silver mantle of a provincial governor. She did not speak. She simply straightened, looked toward Nathan, then toward Veilira. That small movement disturbed the Golden Court more than shouting could have. Lord Kaler turned sharply. Governor, the acknowledgement is not complete. The woman's pale blue eyes remained on the throne. I completed it 30 years ago. A murmur traveled beneath the crystalline ceiling. Nathan stayed where he was. He had not come to challenge 800 people. He had answered one woman honestly. Whatever happened next belonged to them. Kaler faced Nathan again. You confuse personal pride with principle. Nathan's expression did not change. Pride asks other people to notice you. Principle still matters when nobody does. The words settled into the chamber. Veilira had not moved from the throne, but Nathan saw her fingers slowly release the armrest. You were offered respect within our oldest tradition, Kaler said. I offered respect. Nathan nodded toward Veilira. I bowed. You refused submission. Yes. The simplicity of the answer left nowhere for the argument to hide. Kaler looked toward Veilira. Your Grace, command him. Nathan saw the trap tighten again. The council needed her voice. Without it, this was merely a disagreement with a foreign guard. With it, the conflict became proof that the regent accepted their definition of power. Veilira descended one step, then another. The movement drew every eye in the hall. By the time she reached the floor, the enormous throne stood empty behind her. Nathan had never seen her without elevation during a formal session. Apparently, neither had anyone else. She stopped several feet from him. You told me respect volunteered means more than obedience demanded. I did. And if I disagree, you are allowed. A faint shift passed through her expression. Even now, especially now, Veilira looked around the court. Hundreds of nobles who had spent generations learning when to bow were watching her decide whether disagreement required domination. Then answer me plainly, she said. Do you recognize my authority as regent of Asteria? Nathan did not hesitate. Yes. Kaler stepped forward. Then prove it. Nathan finally looked at him. I already did. How? I came here voluntarily to protect her. He returned his attention to Veilira. If this room empties, I stay. If the council rejects her, I stay. If Earth recalls me tonight, I make sure she is safe before I leave. That is what my word means. His voice remained quiet. You want proof of loyalty. I am standing in it. Veilira's golden markings brightened beneath the ceremonial light. Nathan saw something change behind her eyes. Not gratitude. Recognition. She had spent her life surrounded by people whose loyalty was demonstrated by lowering themselves. The human standing before her was offering something far more inconvenient. Loyalty that could say no. Your Grace, Kaler said. This cannot be permitted. Veilira turned toward him. Why? The question seemed to catch him unprepared. Because the order of this court depends upon acknowledgement. He acknowledged me. Not correctly. Veilira looked toward the governor still standing in the gallery, then toward the rows of kneeling nobles. According to whom? Kaler's silence answered before his words did. According to law. A law your council amended 9 days ago. Another murmur spread through the hall. Nathan watched several nobles lift their heads. That detail had not been public. Veilira continued. 5 days before Mr. Hayes was assigned to me. Kaler's face became perfectly still. The council anticipated diplomatic requirements. No, Veilira said. The council anticipated conflict. The elderly governor stepped into the aisle. Your Grace, is this true? Veilira looked at Nathan for one brief second. He gave her nothing except the same calm presence he had promised. This decision had to belong to her. Yes, she said. The governor removed the ceremonial silver band from her wrist and placed it gently on her seat. Then the human was never the one being tested. Nathan heard his own words returned from another voice. Kaler raised a hand. No one leaves until the renewal is concluded. The governor looked at him. You advise the regent, Lord Kaler. You do not own the doors. She turned and began walking toward the eastern arch. One person followed her. Then another stood. Across the golden court, the first empty seats appeared. The first 2 departures became 7 before Lord Kaler found his voice. Nathan watched them cross the golden court without hurry. A provincial governor, 2 trade delegates, a retired fleet commander, 3 regional representatives. None shouted. None challenged Veilira. They simply walked toward the eastern arch, and the quiet sound of their steps carried farther than any argument. Kaler moved toward the center aisle. Leaving during the renewal constitutes rejection of the regent's authority. The elderly governor stopped beneath the arch and looked back. No, Lord Kaler. I am rejecting your definition of it. Then she left. The doors remained open behind her. Nathan felt the atmosphere change. A room of 800 people had become a room of 800 individual decisions. That was dangerous to institutions built on everyone moving together. Another noble stood. Then four more. Veolara remained beside Nathan at floor level, the empty throne rising behind them. "Tell them to remain," Kaler said to her. She looked at him. "Why?" "Because you are regent. That answers why I may command them. It does not answer why I should." Nathan said nothing. She did not need him now. That mattered. A military commander removed the ceremonial band from his wrist. "My family has served this court for 6 generations," he said. "We served Asteria before this council existed." Kaler's expression tightened. "Then remember your oath." "I am." He bowed to Veolara while standing. She returned the gesture with a small inclination of her head. The commander left. Dozens followed. The sound became almost like rain, shoes crossing obsidian, robes brushing stone, doors opening and closing. Nathan looked toward the galleries. People were not fleeing Veolara. Many bowed to her before departing. Some placed their ceremonial bands carefully on their seats. Others simply met her eyes for the first time Nathan had seen all day. That was when he understood. The emptying court was not abandonment. It was acknowledgement without submission. Veolara understood too. Her golden markings brightened faintly as one delegation after another passed through the arches. "Stop them," Kaler demanded. "You are losing the court." Veolara watched another row rise. "Am I?" Within minutes, hundreds of seats stood empty beneath the crystalline ceiling. The mineral incense still burned. The banners still hung. The ceremonial bells still waited for their final signal. Yet the great machinery of tradition had stopped because people had simply chosen not to perform the next movement. Nathan found something profoundly human in that, despite being 40 light-years from Earth. Eventually, only the High Council, a small group of loyal officials, Veolara, and Nathan remained. 800 witnesses had become fewer than 30. The silence felt enormous. Kaler looked around as though architecture itself had betrayed him. "This is what your human has done," he said. Veolara turned toward Nathan. He expected anger, perhaps uncertainty. Instead, she looked almost peaceful. "No," she said. He answered a question. Kaler gestured toward the empty galleries. "And this is the consequence." "Yes." Veolara looked around the chamber. "People made a choice. They humiliated the throne. They bowed to me before leaving." While standing, Veolara's eyes settled on him. "You keep returning to knees." Nathan nearly smiled. Kayla did not. Authority requires visible obedience. Then perhaps what you want is not authority. That landed harder than Nathan's refusal had. Kaler's expression cooled. "Be careful, Your Grace." Nathan shifted his attention toward the council. Not because Kaler had threatened her, but because the words revealed the relationship beneath the ceremony. Veolara heard it too. "Was that advice?" she asked. "A warning? From my advisor?" Silence. Nathan saw the moment she finally understood what he had noticed that morning. The council had never feared a weak regent. They feared one who might discover she did not need their permission to be strong. Kaler straightened. "The High Council will convene immediately to review your fitness to continue as regent." Veolara did not flinch. "On what grounds?" "Failure to preserve the renewal. Failure to command your household. Public destabilization of the court." His gaze moved toward Nathan. "And permitting a foreign servant to challenge Astrian sovereignty." Nathan spoke for the first time in several minutes. "There is that classification problem again." Veolara almost smiled. Kaler turned toward the remaining counselors. "The review begins at midnight." He bowed with perfect ceremonial precision and walked toward the western arch. The others followed. When the doors closed, the golden court became almost completely empty. Veolara stood beneath the throne she might lose before sunrise. Nathan remained beside her. She stared at the abandoned ceremonial bands glittering across hundreds of seats. "You said if the room emptied, you would stay." Nathan looked around. "Technically, there are still 12 attendants." "Nathan." He heard the question beneath his name. He turned toward her. "I am still here." Veolara looked up at the throne, then back at the open eastern doors through which her court had walked away. "At midnight they will take this from me." Nathan followed her gaze. "Maybe. You do not sound concerned." "I am." "Then why are you calm?" Nathan looked at the enormous throne standing alone above them. Because I think they are about to discover the throne was never the most important thing in this room. Midnight arrived without ceremony. No bells sounded. No banners moved. The golden court had been reduced to cold amber light, abandoned seats, and hundreds of silver ceremonial bands left behind like questions nobody had answered. Nathan stood near the eastern arch, while Vaelara faced the 12 members of the High Council from the center of the obsidian floor. She had removed her ceremonial mantle. Without it, she looked less like an institution and more like the woman Nathan had spoken with beside the window hours earlier. Lord Kaler held a silver tablet before him. By unanimous council authority, Vaelara Thane is suspended from the office of regent pending formal review. Vaelara's golden eyes remained steady. Unanimous among 12 people. The authority is lawful. I did not say it was not. That answer unsettled him. Nathan noticed. Kaler had prepared for resistance, outrage, perhaps pleading. Acceptance left him with nothing to push against. Your access to the throne, council chambers, and sovereign communications will be suspended immediately, Kaler continued. Your household appointments are dissolved. His gaze moved toward Nathan, including foreign protective personnel. Nathan touched the Terran insignia at his collar. A soft tone confirmed the termination notice. Just like that, his assignment ended. Vaelara heard it. Nathan, I got it. You are released from service. Apparently. Kaler frowned. Then leave. Nathan looked toward the eastern arch 30 feet. Easy walk. His diplomatic transport waited somewhere beyond the palace. Earth would probably have questions. Several hundred questions, if experience was any guide. He could leave without violating a single order. Instead, he removed the small identification badge marking him as Vaelara's official guard and placed it on an empty seat. Then he returned to exactly where he had been standing. Beside her, Kaler stared. Your appointment has ended. I heard you. Then you have no function here. Nathan looked at Vaelara. That is different from having no reason. The court went silent. Vaelara's expression changed by almost nothing, but Nathan saw it. The gold along her temples brightened. Kaler lowered the tablet. This proceeding concerns Asterian governance. Then govern. Nathan folded his hands behind his back. I am not stopping you. Your presence is inappropriate. That has been mentioned today. Vaelara almost smiled. Kaler did not. The council completed the suspension in less than 5 minutes. No argument. No dramatic declaration. The throne remained where it had always been, enormous and black beneath the crystalline ceiling. Only now it belonged to nobody until the council selected an interim authority. Vaelara watched the final seal appear on Kaler's tablet. Is that all? She asked. Until the review. Then I assume I am permitted to leave. Kaler bowed. You are. Vaelara turned and walked toward the eastern doors. Nathan followed. Mr. Hayes, Kaler called. Nathan stopped. Earth will be informed that your refusal caused a constitutional crisis. Nathan glanced over his shoulder. No, you dispute the record? I dispute the grammar. Kaler's expression hardened. Nathan looked around at the empty court. My refusal did not cause this. It revealed it. Then he left. The corridor outside felt colder than the throne room. Vaelara walked 20 yards before stopping beneath a row of dark windows. The capital glittered below them, thousands of lights stretching toward the horizon. For several seconds, she said nothing. I spent 14 years preparing for that throne, she finally said. Nathan stood beside her. That is a long time. I learned 17 legal codes, 6 diplomatic languages, military logistics, trade systems, constitutional history. She gave a quiet, humorless breath. Apparently, I forgot to learn how to keep 12 counselors happy. Probably not worth another 14 years. She turned toward him. They took everything in 5 minutes. Nathan shook his head. They took the office. What is the difference tonight? You are still here. Vaelara looked almost offended by the simplicity. I have no throne, no council authority, no household, no guard. Nathan glanced at himself. Technically correct on the last one. Her eyes narrowed. Why are you following me? Same direction. Nathan. He stopped joking. Vaelara looked through the dark glass at the city. What am I without the throne? The question was so quiet that the palace seemed to disappear around it. Nathan remembered hundreds of people leaving the court only after bowing to her. He remembered officials meeting her eyes for the first time. He remembered a woman who had finally questioned the rules designed to keep her elevated and powerless. He gave her the only answer that seemed honest. Standing. Veolyra looked at him. Nathan nodded toward her feet. No throne. No steps. Nobody kneeling. You are still standing. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then movement appeared at the far end of the corridor. The elderly governor from the renewal stepped from the shadows. Behind her came the retired fleet commander. Then 2 trade delegates. Then dozens more figures filled the passage, all people who had left the Golden Court earlier. None knelt. None wore ceremonial bands. They simply stopped before Veolyra and remained standing. Nathan watched her understand what the council had failed to see. The court had emptied, but her people had not disappeared. They had been waiting outside. For several seconds, Veolyra could only look at them. The corridor stretched nearly 100 feet beneath dim amber lights, and more Asterians continued appearing through adjoining passages until the quiet gathering filled the space from wall to wall. Nathan counted governors, trade delegates, military officers, regional representatives, legal scholars, and household officials. People who had occupied different levels of the Golden Court hours earlier now stood on exactly the same floor. No raised platform. No throne. No one kneeling. The elderly governor stepped forward. Your Grace. Veolyra's voice remained controlled. I am no longer regent. We know. Then you are not required to address me by title. The governor considered that. Veolyra then. Nathan saw how deeply that simple name reached her. For 14 years, everyone around her had addressed the office before the woman. Now the office was gone, and these people had come anyway. Why are you here? Veolyra asked. The retired fleet commander answered. Because leaving the court was not the same as leaving you. Veolyra glanced toward Nathan. He said nothing. This was her moment. The governor continued. The council believes authority begins with obedience. Tonight reminded many of us that legitimacy begins with choice. The council acted lawfully. Yes. Then challenging the suspension could divide Asteria. We are not asking you to challenge it. Veolyra frowned. Then what are you asking? The governor looked around at the gathered officials. Lead us somewhere else. Silence followed. Nathan watched Veolyra's posture change. Not dramatically. Her shoulders simply lowered, as if some invisible weight had finally slipped away. There is nowhere else, she said. The council controls the Golden Court. Then we do not meet in the Golden Court. They control the administrative chambers. Then we do not meet there either. The fleet commander gestured toward the enormous window overlooking the sleeping capital. Asteria is larger than one building. Nathan almost smiled. Humans had spent centuries learning that lesson repeatedly and with impressive inefficiency. Veolyra looked toward him. You are unusually quiet. Nobody asked the human. That has never stopped you before. A few people nearby laughed softly. The sound felt strange in the midnight corridor, warm and ordinary after a day shaped by ceremony. Nathan shrugged. I think they are doing fine. Veolyra stepped closer. Your contract ended. Yes. Your government can recall you. Probably will. You are no longer obligated to protect me. Correct. Her golden eyes narrowed. Then why are you still here? Nathan could have given her a speech about loyalty, treaties, or principle. Instead, he chose the truth. You confused employment with loyalty. The corridor became quiet again. Veolyra stared at him. Explain. Employment tells me where to stand because someone pays me. Nathan nodded toward the people gathered behind her. Loyalty is where you stand when nobody can make you. Veolyra looked over her shoulder. Dozens of people met her eyes. Not one lowered theirs. Nathan saw the realization arrive slowly. Earlier, 800 people had knelt because tradition required it. Now fewer people stood before her, but every one of them had chosen to come. For the first time all day, Veolyra smiled without checking who might see it. Then where do we go? She asked. The governor answered. The Hall of Civic Assembly has been in use for 70 years. It seats only 300. Then the rest of us can stand. Nathan glanced at the governor. I like her. Veolyra gave him a sideways look. You like anyone who refuses comfortable furniture. It builds character. The gathering began moving toward the southern passage. No procession formed. No one arranged themselves by rank. Veolyra walked among them rather than ahead of them. Nathan stayed beside her. Halfway down the corridor, his communicator vibrated. A Terran diplomatic message appeared across the small display. Immediate recall authorized. Protective assignment concluded. Transport available at dawn. Veolyra saw his expression. Earth? Yes. They want you back. Yes. She looked forward again. You should go. Nathan heard something carefully hidden beneath the words. Probably. Your responsibility here is finished. That is what the message says. Neither spoke for several steps. Then Veilira stopped. Everyone ahead gradually stopped with her. She turned toward Nathan. Earlier you promised that even if Earth recalled you, you would make sure I was safe before leaving. I remember. I am safe. Nathan looked around at the people surrounding her. For the first time since arriving on Asteria, he believed that might actually be true. Looks that way. Veilira nodded once. Then your promise is fulfilled. Nathan slipped the communicator back into his coat. That particular one. Her eyes searched his face. There is another? Nathan looked toward the southern doors as they opened onto a broad avenue glowing beneath the stars. I said I would stay if everyone turned against you. He stepped forward beside her. Turns out everyone did not. Veilira watched him for one quiet second before following. Behind them, far across the palace, the golden court remained brilliantly illuminated and almost completely empty. Ahead, 300 ordinary seats waited in a forgotten hall, and for the first time in generations, Asteria was about to discover what authority looked like when nobody was required to kneel. The Hall of Civic Assembly had no throne. That was the first thing Nathan noticed when the old doors opened. The second was the dust. 70 years of silence had left a pale film across 300 plain seats arranged in a wide semicircle around a floor-level speaking platform. No black steps. No royal banners. No place designed to make one person appear taller than everyone else. Veilira stopped at the entrance. My ancestors closed this hall because debate became inefficient. Nathan ran one finger across the back of a chair and examined the dust. Democracy usually has terrible scheduling. She gave him a tired smile. You are leaving at dawn, and you are still making jokes. Especially because I am leaving at dawn. Behind them, officials began entering. Some cleaned seats with their sleeves. Others remained standing along the walls when every chair was occupied. Nobody organized them by rank. Nathan watched a governor sit beside a junior legal clerk and thought the Golden Court would have considered the arrangement mildly catastrophic. Veilira walked toward the center platform, then stopped before stepping onto it. What? Nathan asked. Nothing. She looked at the gathered Asterians. I was waiting for someone to announce me. Nathan nodded. Occupational hazard. She laughed quietly, then turned to the room. I do not know what authority I possess here. The conversation stopped. The High Council has suspended me lawfully. I will not pretend otherwise. I will not ask you to ignore Asterian law because you disagree with its outcome. The elderly governor stood. Then what will you ask? Veilira considered the question. Nathan could see her searching for the language of command and deliberately setting it aside. I will ask whether the law still serves the people it governs. Silence followed, but it was not the silence of the Golden Court. Nobody was waiting for permission to breathe. They were thinking. A legal scholar rose from the third row. The council may suspend a regent, but it cannot permanently remove one without ratification from the provincial governors. Another voice followed. And constitutional amendments affecting foreign treaties require public review. A third official stood. The council concealed the change to the renewal classification. Nathan leaned against the rear wall and listened as the room began doing something the Golden Court had forgotten how to do. Disagree. Questions crossed the floor. Some defended the council. Others criticized it. Veilira answered when she could and admitted when she could not. Nobody knelt. Nobody was removed for challenging her. 2 hours passed. Then the main doors opened. Lord Kaler entered with 4 council representatives. Conversation faded. Veilira, he said, deliberately withholding her former title. This gathering has no constitutional authority. I know. That answer stopped him. Then disperse it. I cannot. You mean you will not? Veilira looked around the hall. No. I mean I cannot. These people came voluntarily. I have no authority to order them away. Nathan saw Kaler struggle with a concept his system had never prepared him to use. You are encouraging disorder. They are sitting in chairs and discussing law. Nathan glanced around. Terrifying. Kaler ignored him. The council will restore stability. The elderly governor rose. With whose consent? Kaler turned toward her. The council does not require your consent to fulfill its constitutional duty. It requires ours to permanently remove a regent. Other provincial governors stood. Nathan counted 19. Then 27. 31. Kaler's composure finally shifted. You would return her to power after tonight? No, the governor said. Veolyra looked surprised. So did Nathan. The governor continued. We would return authority to the people who granted it. She faced Veolyra and asked whether she wishes to serve under new terms. The room erupted into conversation. Nathan watched Veolyra remain perfectly still. She had lost a throne and found something more difficult than obedience, accountability. Kaler looked around the hall and understood that ordering these people back to the Golden Court would not restore what had been broken. This will take months, he said. Probably, Nathan replied. It will be inefficient. Almost certainly. Asteria could appear divided. Veolyra answered this time. We are divided. Hiding it behind synchronized kneeling does not make us united. Kaler stared at her for several seconds, then lowered his eyes. Not a bow, just thought. He turned and left without another word. Dawn began whitening the tall eastern windows. Nathan checked the time. His transport departed in 43 minutes. Veolyra noticed. You have to go. Yes. They walked together toward the entrance. Behind them, debate continued without either of them. Veolyra listened to it and smiled faintly. They do not need me in the room. That is usually a good sign. At the doors, she stopped. Nathan, when you arrived yesterday, I thought authority meant making people stay. And now? She looked back at the crowded hall. Now I think it means giving them a reason to return. Nathan nodded. That sounds expensive. Why? You will need more chairs. Veolyra laughed, and this time she did not hide it. Nathan stepped into the pale morning corridor. His contract was finished. His transport was waiting. Yet before the doors closed behind him, his communicator sounded once. A new message had arrived from Earth. Nathan read it, then looked back at Veolyra. Terran Command had canceled his recall. The reason consisted of only one sentence. Asteria's Provisional Civic Council had formally requested that Nathan Hayes remain, not as the regent's servant, but as an independent diplomatic protector. Veolyra read his expression. What did Earth say? Nathan slipped the communicator into his coat. Apparently, I have a scheduling conflict. 4 months later, nobody knelt when Veolyra entered the Golden Court. Nathan noticed because everyone else noticed too. The ancient chamber still possessed its 80-foot crystalline ceiling, polished obsidian floor, mineral incense, and black throne beneath the banners of Asteria, but the 7 steps leading to that throne had been removed. In their place stood a broad circular table surrounded by ordinary chairs. The throne itself remained against the far wall, preserved as history rather than instruction. Nathan approved. He had always distrusted furniture with political ambitions. You are smiling, Veolyra said as she approached him. Professional condition. You said that about staring. Humans have several conditions. Her emerald skin caught the morning light, turning the faint gold markings at her temples almost luminous. She no longer wore the regent's heavy ceremonial mantle. The provincial vote had restored her to office under a revised charter, but Veolyra had refused the old title unless the reforms survived public ratification. They had. The High Council still existed. Lord Kaler still served on it, although his authority now required transparent review and recorded votes. Nathan had expected him to resign. Instead, Kaler had done something more difficult. He had stayed and learned how to lose arguments. Nathan respected that more than he admitted. The new charter also abolished compulsory kneeling for civic and diplomatic ceremonies. Bowing remained traditional. Standing remained acceptable. Respect had become something Asterians could give instead of something the court could collect. A young diplomat from a distant colony entered through the eastern arch and stopped uncertainly near the circular table. He looked barely old enough to have practiced court protocol without secretly hating it. Your Grace, he said to Veolyra, where should I kneel? The room became quiet. Nathan felt hundreds of eyes drift toward Veolyra. Months ago, that silence would have been a test. Now it felt like curiosity. Veolyra glanced at Nathan. He raised one eyebrow. Her mouth almost curved. Then she faced the young diplomat. Nowhere. The diplomat blinked. Your Grace. You may bow if that is how you wish to show respect. She gestured toward an empty chair. Or you may stand. What matters is that when you speak honestly. The young Asterian hesitated, then bowed once and took his seat. Nobody objected. The meeting began. Nathan stood near Veolyra for 20 minutes before she finally looked at him. There is a chair beside me. I noticed. You have been standing since sunrise. Occupational hazard. Nathan. He sighed theatrically and sat. Several officials smiled. For months earlier, a human refusing to kneel had nearly caused a constitutional crisis. Now the same human sitting beside the regent barely interrupted discussion. Progress, Nathan thought, was sometimes wonderfully boring. Hours later, after the chamber emptied, Veolara remained beside the eastern windows overlooking the capital. Sunset turned the towers copper and gold. Nathan joined her, carrying 2 cups of Terran coffee that the palace kitchen had finally learned not to ruin. She accepted one cautiously. This substance remains suspicious. That is because you keep smelling it instead of drinking it. It smells burned. That is how you know it is working. She took a small sip and made the same offended expression she always did. Nathan looked toward the circular table. Good session. 3 governors disagreed with me. Only 3. I am improving. Silence settled comfortably between them. Veolara looked toward the old throne against the far wall. Do you remember what I asked you after they suspended me? You asked several things. I asked what I was without the throne. Nathan nodded. I remember. You said standing. Seemed accurate. She looked at him. I thought it was the simplest answer anyone had ever given me. That sounds like criticism. It was. Her expression softened. Now I think it was the first honest answer. Nathan looked through the window as the first stars appeared above Asteria. Do not tell Earth. They will expect me to become philosophical. Veolara laughed quietly. Then she placed her coffee on the windowsill and extended one hand toward him, not as regent to guard, but simply as one person asking another to remain. Nathan looked at her hand, then took it. No ceremony followed. No bells. No witnesses. Nobody lowered themselves so someone else could appear taller. Behind them, the old throne gathered dust while hundreds of ordinary chairs waited for morning. Nathan had arrived on Asteria believing his duty was to protect one alien woman. Instead, he had watched her learn that dignity could not be commanded, loyalty could not be forced, and authority meant little if freedom disappeared beneath it. Veolara looked toward the stars, still holding his hand. Tomorrow will be difficult. Nathan nodded. Probably. Will you stay? He looked at the woman who no longer needed anyone beneath her to know how tall she stood. That was always the idea. And beneath the quiet light of another world, human and alien remained side by side, both standing, while the stars asked nothing of them at all.